Hello and welcome to our discussion for Speech Communication 115 Lecture 3, which is the physiological basis of speech. Here, we will try to look at the different systems of our body and at the same time look at the processes, the functions, and how it helps produce and receive sound. So our objectives here is first to understand the production and reception of sound in a human body, and next is to understand the respiratory, articulatory, auditory, and neurological systems, and finally to connect the physiological basis of speech, not just in speech correction, but also in communication learning. So we try to look back first with the production of sound. When we try to produce sound, we need these following elements. The first one is the source of energy, and then we also need a vibrator to produce that energy, and also a resonator to improve the sound and to give a distinctive timbre of the instrument. But for the human body, in order to produce sound, we also need to add another element, which is the articulatory mechanism, or in which production of sounds of articulate speech. So we will try to look at the different systems of our body, mainly the respiratory, articulatory, auditory, and neurological systems, in a way how sound produces. So we can look at the respiratory system as the source of energy or vibration. We can also look at the articulatory system as where sound is actually produced. We also look at the auditory system as where sound is received, and neurological system as where sound is comprehended. So we go first with the source of energy, which is respiration. So respiration is where the column of air in the throat, mouth, and nasal cavities are set into vibration by the passage of a stream of air over the vocal cords, or what we call the vocal folds, causing causing these organs to vibrate. And the immediate source of energy is the stream of breath as it passes over the vocal cords or the vocal folds. So respiration is primarily concerned with the maintenance of life. So it is a biological function. However, respiration is also useful to produce sound and speech. So breathing for speech is essentially the same process as breathing for life. So it consists of two phases: inhalation, in which the air flows into the lungs, where it feeds the blood with refreshing oxygen to be carried to the tissues and in doing work, and exhalation, in which the air flows out again into the open air, laden with carbon dioxide and other waste matter. So from inhalation to exhalation, we have inspiration, where the chest expands, the diaphragm contracts and moves downwards, and at the same time, the air is filled in our lungs. And then when we speak, we do expiration, where the diaphragm expands and the opposite of inspiration or inhalation, and the air is released along with the sound or the speech that we make. We have two videos here, or two resources. The first one is the mechanics of breathing. So this video shows how breathing happens in our bodies. So we observe so here in this video, we observe how the body moves when we breathe. And with that, we can also observe our own breathing. So we will notice that the way we breathe, or how we breathe, affects the way we speak. So sometimes we do quick breathing, or sometimes we do deep breathing. We sometimes breathe through our chest, or through our abdomen, or through our diaphragm. And with that, different sound is produced the way based on the way we breathe. And the next video, video number 2, is the breath support for strong, clear voice. So you may try this. This is a breathing exercise, and you may try this breathing exercise to improve your voice and avoid running out of breath when speaking. So you will also learn different breathing methods and body movements from these patterns. The next one is sound production, which is articulation, or we look at the articulatory system. So, vibration of human sound is done through vocal cords or vocal folds found in the larynx, or commonly called as the voice box. So, the vocal folds are rather complex in structure, attachment, and even in control. So, they are as little as possible like the strings of musical instruments, um, and that is why it is commonly called as vocal cords, which suggests strings. But they are not string like in any particular. Instead, they are rather thickish bits of striped muscle fiber, fastened at the ends and on the outer edges to the skeletal cartilages of the larynx in a complicated way presently to be described, and bordered along the inner edges with thin white connective tissue. So it is composed of different tissues and muscles, so that it moves freely, and at the same time it moves like an opening and closing of a door. So, similar to the respiratory system, the primary function of the vocal folds is to maintain life. It is also the same as the respiratory system or the lungs, by protecting the airway from choking on material in the throat and regulating the flow of air into our lungs. But at the same time, as it protects us from choking and it protects the airways, it also produces sounds as these vocal folds open and closes rapidly. So we look at how how vocal cords produce sound. So vocal cords again open and close rapidly in a horizontal plane at a frequency appropriate to the fundamental pitch of the tone being produced, alternately permitting the momentary outflow of air and then causing the momentary stoppage of the airstream, which the muscles of exhalation or expiration are forcing up from the lungs below. So these interruptions set the airstream into vibration in order to produce the tone. So the fact that the lower lips or the lower flaps of the vocal cords or the vocal bands open first, followed by the upper lips, and the lips close again in the same order, that accounts for the rolling motion of the glottic rims in vibration. So when when these vocal cords open and closes rapidly, it causes vibration, and the elastic nature of these vocal cords causes the production of sound through vibrations from the airflow. So it is similar to the sound waves that are produced by the elasticity of the object causing vibration, and the sound produced by the human articulatory system is also produced by the elasticity of the vocal cords, causing vibration from the airflow. So we now know how sound is produced, but how do we actually shape the sounds? How do we actually articulate different words? Or how do we how do we adjust the vibrations into different frequencies or different pitches or different tone? So here we use different organs such as the lip or the tongue tip, the tongue blade, the tongue dorsum, the velum, and the vocal bands or the vocal cords. These organs make contact with the teeth, palate, and pharyngeal wall. And when these organs combine, we can shape what sound we want to articulate. So when you speak, you may notice your lips and your throat and your tongue move. And these movements vary from different words that we say or in the manner of saying the words. So again, we have resources here. In the first video, which is the laryngoscopy of an opera singer, it shows how the vocal cords move as seen in a stroboscope, or an instrument that used to check our throats. You can also observe how vocal cords move, or how the vocal cords open and close, or flaps, when the pitch and the rate of the sound change. In the second video, you may try these articulation exercises to practice the movement of your vocal cords. At the same time, you can practice the movement of your tongue and the other parts of the articulatory system. You may observe the movements of your mouth and your throat when you take this exercise. So you don't just do the exercise, you also observe how uh, your body parts move. You can also look at these resources or these videos to show how our articulatory organs, such as the lips, the velum, our tongue, and our our throat, move when we articulate different words, from vowels even to consonants. So you may also try to mimic the movement, especially the tongue movement or the lip movement, and try to articulate the sounds on your own. Now we move on to the auditory process, or sound reception. So here, we will go back to the concept of sound waves. So these sound waves are collected by the external ear, or the outer ear, towards the ear canal, and deliver them to the tympanic membrane, or to the middle ear, or what we call the eardrum. So the eardrum transforms the pressure patterns of the air sound waves into mechanical vibrations of the bones of the middle ear. So the eardrum is like a drum, it beats, and then that vibrations from the sound waves causes causes vibrations to the bones, which are the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. So these the vibrations in the eardrum caused by the sound waves transmit to the small bones, which go straight to the cochlea, or throughout the inner ear. So the cochlea detects the sounds from the vibration, and then transfers nerve signals to the brain for the brain to interpret, and the spiral structure of the cochlea vibrates in response to sound with a particular vibration pattern. So some parts of the cochlea absorb high frequency or high pitch sound. Some parts cover low pitch or low frequency sounds. So we also have resources here. So the first video shows how sound travels in the ear and is converted into neural messages by the brain. But at the same time, it also shows the dynamics of sound reception when one experiences hearing loss. So why do some people get hearing loss, and which parts of the ear um, is affected when one experiences hearing loss? You may also try this ear training exercise in the second video to improve your hearing skills. You play the first seven white keys in the piano along with the black keys. And then you try this ear training exercise to distinguish the sound. And at the same time, you also practice your familiarity with different pitches or different frequencies, or um, familiarity with the sound itself. Now we go to the last part, or which is sound comprehension. So we use our neurological system to interpret the messages, interpret the sound waves that we receive. So when we receive sound waves, we are not actually in the part of hearing it. we can actually hear it when the brain interprets those sound waves into something that we can understand or comprehend. So, using the neurological system, or particularly the brain, we actually process language or speech. So, how does the brain process language? To simplify this complex process, we can break it down into three phases of sentence processing. The first one is the local phase structure, which involves the initial processing of sentence elements guided by word category information. The next phase is the syntactic and semantic relations, which handles the computation of relations between verbs and their arguments, or grammar basically, which is essential for comprehension. So it helps us identify who is performing an action in a sentence. And the last one is integration of information, which deals with the merging of semantic and syntactic information. And it's sometimes requiring context or prior knowledge or word knowledge to resolve ambiguities that we receive from what we have heard or maybe from what we have read. So we can also explore the parts of the brain where it produces language or it comprehend where it produces and comprehends language. In the left hemisphere, the Broca area and the Wernicke area are pivotal for language and speech. The Broca area, situated in the frontal lobe, plays a critical role in language processing and even shows increased activity when anticipating grammatical errors. The Wernicke area, located nearby the Broca area, is where the meaning of language is decoded, involving perception and comprehension. Then we also have the motor cortex, which deals with the connection of language and speech. Or the motor cortex actually connects the two halves of our brain. So it ensures the translation of words into speech. It's a crucial element in the journey of from seeing a word on paper to vocalizing that word. As the left brain deals with language, while the right brain handles the visual and spatial processing. So this knowledge emphasizes the importance of listening and engaging with language as a fundamental step in learning and producing language. So as we continue to develop our bodies and our voices, other parts of the brain come into play, aiding in understanding the words, the sentences, and in producing sounds. So, language and communication skills evolve as we engage in speaking and also in reading. So we have two resources again here. So the first video, which is how do our brains process speech, explains how our brains processes and comprehends speech. So this understanding further evolved into different innovations in neuroscience, such as speech recognition and scanning our brains to understand the language that we are speaking or the words that we are trying to say. So, the speech recognition comes from the interpretation of brainwaves. So, the next one is neurogenesis. So, this is a TED talk that will help you understand how to improve your brain function as well as how to utilize our mind when it comes to listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So, our body is the number one example for the basis of speech. So, our body, in other words, our body embodies speech production, reception, and even comprehension. So, who we are and what we do produce communication, and in a way that we can process and also understand. So, my advice for everyone is to review the different systems of our body, the respiratory, articulatory, auditory, and neurological systems, in order to understand how our body works as a communicator, and do the recommended exercises from this video to observe each function and also to improve.